All right, we're going to review a sample test. I think the one thing you really want to do is go to your textbook, look at pages 128, and on page 128, you're going to basically see a diagram of a sarcomere and a sliding filament theory. I think you're going to look at pages 137 and 138 because I call that the muscle man. And if you take a look at that and look up each of those muscles, you'll have an understanding of location and something about the muscle. Because the worst thing I can tell you is to take an anatomy class and someone tells you says where are the quads, and you tell them I think they're in the arm. And then I think pages 139 through 150, that's a table of all the muscles, skeletal muscles of the body. I don't expect you to memorize all that, but when you see a muscle on a test or a sample test, look up that muscle and you'll get an understanding of where it is, what it does, and where it's connected. How about we start with taking a look at one of these questions, what
Sure
to do with
thing.
them. Number 3, how does that sound? Number
Yeah, let's
3
do that
says
cardiac muscle.
cardiac muscle, okay? Remember, cardiac muscle is the myocardium of the heart. So when you think myocardium of the heart, myocardial infarction, and kind of think, where do you find it? And so if you just basically say, I'm going to draw myself a little box of a heart, and you can always go to the chapter 12 in the textbook and you'll see all kind of diagrams of the heart. And if you just look at the heart and say that's the RA and the RV and the LA and the LV, that means for A for atrium, V for ventricle. And therefore, let's bring a couple of big vessels in and a couple of big vessels out. That's the SVC, superior vena cava, IVC, inferior vena cava, AA, ascending aorta, DA, descending aorta. Now it's saying, where do you find cardiac muscle? Only in the heart chambers. Be careful of only. That's not true. That's false. Inner member of epicardium. Remember, the heart is lined by a simple squamous epithelium, so that's going to be called the endocardium. So that's why that's false. It's found only in the ventricles. Obviously, that's not true because you have it in all the 4 chambers, so that's false. It says it has, and this is false, false, false. It says intercalated discs at the M line. Remember, intercalated discs are going to be at the Z line between adjacent muscle cells, fibers, myocytes. That's false. But it's found in the atria, ventricles, and the proximal AAD, SVC, IVC. And of course, that's where the right answer is going to be. So remember, inferior vena cava, superior vena cava, ascending and descending aorta. Okay? Number 4, it says well, I don't think we need to do that. How about we take a look at...
What about the nerves? The number 5.
Okay, 5.
Yeah.
Okay, just remember, these are talking to the superior rectus. Remember, that's going to be a extrinsic eyeball muscle. I explained to you in a lecture before. All I told you to remember is memorize that SO4, LR6, and the rest are 3. And so therefore, this is talking about the superior rectus. So superior oblique is 4 trochlear. Lateral rectus is 6 abducens. The rest are 3 oculomotor. This is superior rectus, so that's the rest, so 3. So there's your answer to that question. How about...
I know you mentioned a lot the sliding filament
sliding
theory.
filament theory,
Yeah,
right, because
which
I
is-
said to look at pages 128. So I guess number 8, sliding filament theory. Again, I can't emphasize strong enough to understand that sliding filament theory. The book makes it very, very easy to understand. All you have to do is draw something that looks like this. This is actin, this is myosin. This is a cross bridge coming across this way. Remember, the goal of that is to pull this actin towards together. So the goal is to bring these 2 together.
Can you
That's
slide
how they're
that
going
paper
to
over
slide.
just a little bit?
That's going to be
Yeah.
the sliding filament theory.
No pun
And
intended.
so therefore says myosin, think of what we've got here. It says myosin is the origin, right? Myosin's going to pull at the actin. So that's true. So therefore that has to be false. This is the H zone. Remember, the H zone is strictly going to be myosin. And so what I'm going to do, if I bring these 2 together that contract, this H zone is not going to enlarge, so that's false. it's going to shrink. So that's true. So the answer is A and D. I guess maybe 9.
Yeah, we can do 9.
Neurotransmitter. Just remember, a neurotransmitter, there's thousands of neurotransmitters probably now, but the key one to always remember is something called acetylcholine. And therefore, ACE is always an enzyme. It's going to recycle acetylcholine. And therefore, it says the neurotransmitter is acetylcholinesterase. Well, it can't be that. That recycles it, so that's false. It's found only in skeletal muscles. Obviously, that's false because you've got it in smooth cardiac and skeletal. And therefore, the answer is it's found in the myoneural junction, which is also called the neuromuscular junction. Maybe
Let's look at the corners of the mouth.
corners of the mouth.
Yeah.
Okay,
11.
so kind of think, elevating a corner of the mouth. If you just kind of think when you look at a mouth and your mouth is like this and it's got a corner or an angle. And so when I elevate the corner of the mouth, you kind of think of there's going to be vectors. So I'm looking for muscles that are going to do this. And of course, that's going to elevate the corner of the mouth. So I know one of those is going to be the levator anguli oris, because that's what that does, elevates the angle. And then the zygomaticus, if you think of the zygomaticus, which is also called the smiler, it actually does this. The zygomaticus is going to elevate the angle, and it's going to abduct the angle. And so therefore, the answer has to be C. That's the only one that does it. So again, that's just looking up those muscles on that muscle table. Number 12, you want to look at 12?
Yeah, let's look at that.
Okay,
Yeah, 'cause
remember,
you were talking about
the heart
that.
is really critical, and I told you to make sure you understand the heart. You can always take a look. Again, chapter 12 in the textbook talks all about the heart and EKG, but just kind of think of a textbook EKG, and that's your P, Q, R, S, and T. And you want to define what those waves stand for. But the key is that because the muscle mass of the atrium is so small compared to the ventricles, the QRS complex, which mainly stands for ventricular depolarization, hidden inside of there is going to be atrial repolarization. So where I'm going to find that is going to be in the QRS complex. Let's see. Let's take
I was looking ahead.
One.
Yeah, the linea alba.
Linea alba. Okay, linea alba. You always think linea alba. Linea alba is basically, if you think that here's your abdominal wall, here's your xiphoid process at the base of your sternum, here's your pubic symphysis here, here's that aponeurosis called the linea alba that connects to two. Remember, that's going to bisect the rectus in the midline, and therefore think of the answers, Is it found only in women? It's impossible because men have got a rectus abdominis muscle. That's false. Palpated posteriorly, that means you have to actually put your hand inside of a person, so obviously that's false. It could be anteriorly. Turns brown with leukoplakia. Look up the word, but you'll see leukoplakia is white spots in your teeth, so therefore that's false. Can turn brown under MSH influence. That's the only true answer because MSH is melanocyte stimulating hormone produced by the anterior pituitary, and that's why you'll see when a woman is pregnant, has a fairly well-developed abdomen, you'll see a brown line running from their, the base of their sternum down to their pubic symphysis. Let's see, any other ones that kind of strike you?
Yeah, continue the wall
20?
muscles. Yeah, 16.
Okay, 4 body wall muscles. So if we do that, just use that same drawing that we've already done up here. We know that muscle here is the RA, that's my rectus abdominis. I know that over the top of that, just deep to it, is the external oblique.
Can you shift the paper over just a little bit?
I know that just below that is the IO, and that's going to be the internal oblique. And then running in a transverse fashion is going to be the transverse abdominis. So all I've got to look for, rectus, external, internal, transverse abdominis, C. There's your only right answer.
Okay.
Anything else that you kind of see that isn't nice to take a look at?
Number 19.
Number 19. Number 19 is a definition that I really don't like, but it's a definition been used forever. You'll see it in board exams. You'll see it on any type of allied health exam. It's a definition basically of nothing more than a sarcomere. So remember, the sarcomere is a function of skeletal muscle, and it's basically telling you that, if this is your drawing this, and a sarcomere is from here to here, and so therefore it's the functional unit because its separation is called Z lines. That's a Z line, that's a Z line, and between the two Z's a sarcomere. What else do we have? How about
21.
21, masseter and temporalis. Remember, masseter and temporalis are muscles of mastication. So you want to remember there's the masseter, so that's one muscle. 2 is the temporalis. 3 is the lateral pterygoid. And 4 is the medial pterygoid. So those are the muscles of mastication. Remember, they're all going to be innervated by CN5. Chewing, or a toothache, CN5 is trigeminal nerve. And therefore now it's saying the masseter is chewing temporalis on the side of your head, the temporal bone. So what do? Well, they chew, right? So that's what mastication is, so that's true. And of course, when you chew, those are 2 of the 4 muscles that raise the mandible. So therefore, that's true. So there's your answer is C and D. Anything else we want to see?
I like how it's put the gut waves. 24.
Gut waves. All right.
Waves.
Gut waves, kind of think of it that as you're looking at the anatomy, this is going to be your esophagus passing through the diaphragm, and then you're going to go into your stomach, and then you're going to go into your small intestine, into your large intestine, and finally into your rectum. And so therefore your esophagus, just think, is the proximal 1/3 is going to be skeletal. When I want to swallow, I've got to voluntarily do it. The distal 2/3 are going to be smooth. And I'm not going to see skeletal muscle until I get to here again, until I get to the external anal sphincter is the next time I'll see skeletal muscle. So just think, when I have gut waves, which is really called peristalsis, are they only voluntary? No, because they're certainly not voluntary there, because this is all smooth, so that's false. Are they only involuntary? No, that's false. They never start from voluntary, that's false, because when you swallow, that's how you get things going. Are they called periscopus? No, they're peristalsis, that's false, but the answer is this: they have a voluntary and involuntary component. So when I swallow, the best way to think about it, I'm going to start that wave moving. Anything else that you see here? How about maybe 27?
Yeah, we can look at that, yeah.
Remember, there's 31 pair of spinal nerves, and there's 12 pair of cranial. And therefore, the 11th spinal nerve, it says there innervates the SCM. Well, again, look up the SCM, the sternocleidomastoid muscle. If you look at the lectures that I had you look at, you'll see I talk about the sternocleidomastoid. It's a very significant muscle. It's what? It's innervated by the 11th cranial nerve. So therefore, it's not the spinal, it's the 11th cranial. And therefore, it's false. What else you got that we can look at?
The true false number 35.
35. Cardiac muscle used as a sarcomere and an ICD as a functional unit. Remember, the only really main difference, if you looked histologically, is that, remember we said a sarcomere is nothing more than from a Z line to a Z line. And if I just add, like I did for you on the muscle lectures, another extension of a sarcomere, I know that if I had a little squiggly line over the top of that, that would be considered to be a ICD, an intercalated disc. You want to look up the definition, and of course the definition I gave to you in the lecture. Remember, the definition of an ICD is it electrically couples adjacent cardiac muscle cells, fibers, myocytes. It's actually, I think, also on the 91 question review sheet. And therefore, cardiac muscle uses a sarcomere and an intercalated disc as a functional unit, and that's absolutely true. Anything else that we could take a look at here?
Let's do the internal intercostal muscles, number 47.
47.
The
All
true
right.
false, yeah.
Internal intercostal muscles, okay? So just remember, I always, say, when you eat ribs, what are you really eating? And just kind of think that you've got a rib here, and you got a rib below it. I'll make this very simple. So here's a rib or a costa. Here's a rib or a costa. I've got muscles running like this. Those are my external intercostals. I've got muscles running like that. Those are my internal intercostals. And running in between there are three structures called an intercostal vein, artery, and nerve. So it says the internal intercostal muscles are surrounded by intercostal nerves. Absolutely true, because those are running through the intercostal space.
Could
So
you
just
move
think of
the sheet? Just yeah,
significance.
there we go. Okay.
So that's going to be significant too when you start thinking, we start talking about putting chest tubes in, going through the intercostal space. Anything else? How about 49?
Yeah, we can go over that.
Yeah, remember 49, we talked a little bit already. Remember I said muscles of mastication, temporalis, masseter, lateral medial pterygoid. I said that those are the same muscles that are innervated by the nerve that's going to cause a toothache. So therefore, when I have a toothache, it's the trigeminal nerve. That's cranial nerve number 5. Got 3 branches, though it's got a branch going to the
Oh, can you slide the
eye. So when you think of
Yeah,
the
there we
word
go.
trigeminal, remember the significance of that. Trigeminal, 3 branches. One going to the eye, one going to the maxilla, one going to the mandible, and so therefore that's a true statement. So that, I think, kind of gives you an idea of what you want to do. So when I'm going to send you this test that's sitting right in front of me here, I'm going to send you this 50-question test, but you really have got to take time and analyze each question. You can't guess at the question, and again, it's meaningless to guess. It's meaningless just to memorize. All you have to do is take a circle of muscles. So when you see like this question here, it says the triceps brachii, the biceps brachii. Just go to pages 139 to 150 in the textbook, and right away you're going to be able to see where the answers are for those. Anytime you see a muscle, all you have to do is just look it up. Same here, the levator ani, just as I'm doing. Look up the levator ani. You're going to see that on pages 139 and 150. Okay? Same thing here. Look at the internal oblique. Look at pages 139 to 150. Same over here, coccygia. So remember I said there's 657 skeletal muscles? I've narrowed it down in this test by certain ones. I don't think there's more than 25 muscles sitting here. Those are the ones that you want to for sure know for the exam. Look at this. Here's 2 more muscles. Okay, infraspinatus, supraspinatus, right? Those are part of your rotator cuff. You want to look those up. External oblique, there's another muscle to look up, okay? Rectus abdominis, another muscle to look up. External oblique, okay? and just again explain to you, like when it says true, false, floating, it's actually expecting you to remember that there's three sets of ribs. There's going to be 7 pair of true, there's going to be 3 pair of false, and 2 pair of floating. So when you look that up, you're going to see where it comes from. Another one here, another muscle, real important, multifidus. It says it extends the entire length of the vertebral column. If you take a look in the textbook, you're going to see that the multifidus, if you look in the reading, so you can look at the table, but if you go through the reading in the textbook, you're going to actually see that the multifidus muscle is actually going to go all the way except from C1. So it's going to start really at C2. So that's kind of a unique muscle. It's something that you've got to look at. Same thing here, bulbospongiosis. Take a look at the bulbospongiosis. Make sure you understand something about it. All you have to do is take a look at that diagram. That diagram tells you so much information, and you really need to understand that. I think, like right here, just go to page 131 of the textbook, and you'll see the answer to where this multifidus extends everywhere going down from C2 down. Real significant muscle. Same thing, I'm just kind of going through these and make sure you can understand where I come up with this. But that's what you want to do. You want to go through the test that I send you and say, hey, let me underline the names of those muscles. Again, I'm just looking at things I just talked about. Just remember, look at, there you got, levator palpebrae superioris. You just got to look it up in the table. The answer's right there. So I want you to spend some time. And again, the significance of an exam, it's not for me to figure out what you know. It's so that you can really learn how to take a test, how to critically think and analyze a test. Because giving you the test and giving you all the answers, that's great. I memorized the answer. It's going to do nothing for you in the future. So take some time, read your book, and do exactly what I analyze each of those questions, and you'll see how the test will become very simple and very something that you'll remember and not just memorize and then forget 3 weeks later. Thank you.
Take care.